My name's Morgan, and for the last year, I've been working the overnight shift at a gas station called Larkspur Station, the only 24-hour spot for about 20 miles in either direction. It's planted off a cracked, winding stretch of highway in rural Oregon. You wouldn't even notice it if you weren't looking for it. A single flickering sign, 3 old pumps, and a tired little convenience store stocked with snacks that expired last season. It's the kind of place that feels paused in time. I took the job after moving out here to get away from, well, a lot. City noise, broken relationships, and my own head, mostly. The quiet was supposed to help. Most nights it did. I work alone. Management says it's because traffic is light and margins are tight. Real reason? No one else wants to work out here in the dark, surrounded by trees, where the wind sounds like whispers through dead branches. I don't mind the solitude, not usually. There's a rhythm to the night. Clean the coffee machines, sweep the floor, check the pump logs. Maybe serve a trucker hauling down from Portland or a lost couple trying to find a motel that doesn't exist anymore. You'd be amazed how many people end up here without knowing how. But then, there was him. It was a Thursday, somewhere between 2 o'clock and 2:30 a.m. I was halfway through restocking the fridge when I heard the soft ding of the door sensor. I glanced up through the glass doors and saw a man stepping inside. Nothing unusual at first glance. Average height, maybe late 40s, though something about him seemed refined, like he didn't belong on a back road in Oregon. He wore a dark coat, tailored, not cheap, and a pair of black gloves, the kind you see in old detective movies. His hair was perfectly combed, and he walked like he had nowhere to rush to, every movement precise. He scanned the room slowly, eyes resting on everything just a bit too long, before walking straight to the refrigerated section and picking up a tall glass bottle of imported mineral water, a brand I'd never even seen anyone touch. I rang him up. As I handed back his change, he looked around like he was taking in the walls, the lighting, the air itself. "Quiet place," he said, voice soft, even. "You must enjoy the peace." I nodded. "Most nights, yeah. It's predictable." He smiled. "Not a big one, just the kind that stays in the corners of the mouth." "Predictable can be comforting," he said, "until it isn't." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just gave him my polite employee smile and wished him a good night. He paused on his way out, turned back and added, "See you around, Morgan." I froze for half a second. I hadn't told him my name. By the time I stepped outside to check if maybe he'd read my name tag, which I wasn't wearing that night, his car was gone. No taillights, no sound, just empty road stretching into black trees on both ends. But I did catch one thing before he disappeared completely. The car he was driving didn't have a license plate. It was 4 nights later when he came back. This time, he wasn't alone. The bell over the door jingled at 1:47 a.m. I was behind the counter, trying to stay awake by reorganizing the scratch-off tickets for the 3rd time that shift. I looked up expecting another trucker, or maybe one of the local weirdos who comes in for a hot dog and conspiracy chat. Instead, it was him, and her. She stepped in first, early 30s maybe, tall, olive skin, long dark hair curled too deliberately to be casual. She wore a sleek black jacket, tight leather pants, and heeled boots way too impractical for the gravel lot outside. Everything about her screamed intentional. You know the kind. Someone trying to look like they just threw something on, but every detail was practiced. The man followed, same sharp coat and gloves. This time, he didn't say anything. He just gave me a polite nod like we were old friends acknowledging each other across a room. The woman, on the other hand, was all sugar. "You have such a lovely vibe," she said as she reached the counter, her eyes raking over me in a way that made my skin crawl. "So calm. So grounded." I offered a stiff smile. "Thanks. Can I help you two find something?" "Oh, no," she said, waving a hand like we were chatting at a brunch. "We're just stopping in. Honestly, I'm glad we did. I think we were meant to meet you." I didn't like the way she said that. She leaned a little closer across the counter, fingers brushing a candy rack. "I know this might sound a little odd," she said with a perfectly rehearsed laugh, "but we run a kind of private club. Events, exclusive stuff. We're always looking for people like you. Down to earth, natural. You'd be perfect for it." The man behind her remained silent, watching, still, hands in pockets, not moving an inch. "What kind of club?" I asked, forcing lightness into my voice. "Oh, Nothing weird, she said quickly, like she'd been asked before. Just upscale parties, private estates, beautiful spaces, beautiful people, nothing shady. Just fun, safe, great pay. For someone like you, easily 10,000 for a weekend. All expenses covered. I laughed nervously. Sounds a little too good to be true. It's real, she insisted, suddenly serious. We don't advertise. It's all word of mouth. We choose who we invite. And we think you'd do well. My hands were suddenly clammy. I glanced at the clock. 1:52 a.m. No customers. No cars outside. The woman reached into her purse like she was about to pull something out. But instead, she leaned in closer and said softly, "You should come outside for a second. There's someone waiting who can tell you more. He's just by the pumps. Doesn't take long." My heartbeat skipped. I stepped back slightly. "No, I'm good," I said, trying not to let my voice shake. "Appreciate the offer, though." There was a moment, a flicker in her smile. Something ugly beneath the charm. Just then, headlights beamed through the windows. A red SUV pulled in. An older couple stepped out and walked toward the pumps, laughing about something on the radio. The woman blinked, then turned to the man. Without another word, they both exited, calmly, as if nothing had happened. I walked out a few minutes later and scanned the lot. Nothing but the SUV and a few moths dancing around the lights. No sign of a third person waiting at the pumps. And yet I knew someone had been there. I told my manager the next morning. His name's Bill. Mid-50s, worn down from too many years in small business hell, but a good guy. He listened quietly while I explained everything. The man, the woman, the weird invitation, and the offer to step outside. He didn't interrupt once, just rubbed his jaw, nodding. "They say anything illegal?" he finally asked. "No," I said, "but it was off. I don't know how to explain it. It felt like they were testing me." He agreed to file a report with the franchise owners and said he'd start checking in more often, maybe install an extra camera near the side lot. But we both knew unless something actually happened, there wasn't much anyone could do. The next few nights were uneventful, just the usual lonely routine. Sweep, stock, stare at the clock, pretend I wasn't looking over my shoulder every few minutes. Then, one night around 3 a.m., I looked out the front window and saw a car parked across the road, engine off, no lights on. I couldn't make out the model, but I could see the faint silhouette of someone in the driver's seat, just sitting, watching. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe someone taking a break from a long drive, or a local teenager trying to avoid curfew. But the feeling, that weight in my gut, it was the same feeling I had when that woman leaned across the counter with her too smooth smile. The car stayed there for nearly an hour, didn't move, just idled in the dark. When I finally went to the back to get supplies, it was gone when I returned. No sound, no lights, just vanished. 2 nights later, it got worse. I finished my shift and locked up like usual around 4:10 a.m. I got in my car, cranked the heat, and pulled onto the road. The sun hadn't even started to touch the horizon yet. A chill mist clung to the pavement. About a mile up, headlights flicked on behind me. I checked my mirror. Same shape as the car I'd seen parked earlier that week. Still no license plate. I tried to stay calm. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't even the same car. But every turn I made, it followed. Not tailgating, just lingering, like it didn't want to spook me too soon. I turned right at a dead end I knew circled back to the main road. The car followed. I took a left at a fork that led to a gravel pull-off no one used. The car followed. Finally, I swung into the parking lot of the nearest hospital, circled the emergency entrance, and parked under the floodlights. My hands were shaking. I watched the car slow at the edge of the lot. Then it sped off down the road like it had been caught red-handed. The ER doors slid open as a nurse came out for a smoke break. She looked at me with concern, but didn't ask questions. I stayed there for nearly an hour before driving home. The whole time, I felt like my spine was made of static. 3 nights later, just before closing, the bell above the door rang again. And it was her. Alone. Same red lipstick, same high boots, same smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Thought I'd come check on you," she said like we were old friends. I didn't say anything, just reached for my phone under the counter and sent a text to Bill. "She's here." Now. She didn't stop smiling. "We never got to finish our conversation," she said sweetly. "It's not too late, you know." I kept one hand on the register drawer, where I'd hidden a box cutter. The security monitor behind her flickered. That's when I saw it. Movement by the back door. Someone was out there. The monitor twitched again. Static rolled across the screen for less than a second, but it was long enough to register what I'd seen. A figure, standing near the dumpsters by the back entrance, not moving, just waiting. I tried to keep my expression neutral, but my heart was hammering so hard I thought it might shake the counter. The woman leaned forward on her elbows, eyes flicking lazily around the store. "I know what you're thinking," she said, voice lower now. "You're scared. That's okay. It means you're smart." The screen blinked again. Now a second figure stood in frame, closer to the back door, wearing something dark, something bulky. I couldn't make out the face. I backed away under the pretense of checking something beneath the register. I reached for the office key and palmed it. My other hand gripped the handle of the box cutter so tightly I nearly cracked the plastic. "I think it's time for you to leave," I said as evenly as I could. The woman tilted her head, mock surprise painting her face. "You don't want to hear the rest?" she asked. "It's just one step through the door, one chance to change your life." I took a step back, then another. "Get out," I said, firmer now. For the first time, the smile faltered. Not gone, just thinned. A flicker of something colder underneath. She straightened slowly and turned her head toward the windows, as if listening for something. Then the lights flickered overhead, and everything went black. The hum of the coolers stopped. The buzzing from the signs faded into dead air. Only the emergency exit light glowed weakly behind me. The monitors were down, cameras were out. We were in the dark, my breath caught in my throat. When the lights came back on, barely a second later, she was gone. The front door was still swinging shut, the bell giving one last high-pitched jingle. I bolted to the office and locked myself inside, dialed 911, whispered everything. As I spoke, I checked the backup screen for the outdoor cams. The feed was glitching, but between the static, I caught it. 3 figures, 2 crouched by the front window, 1 by the back door. They were waiting. Watching. I stayed locked in until I heard tires screeching in the lot. I peeked through the blinds. It was Bill, my manager, bat in hand. I burst out, met him at the door, practically dragging him inside. Before I could say a word, we heard it. The sound of an engine gunning away. A black SUV peeled out of the lot, headlights off, disappearing into the woods at the bend. Bill had managed to grab a partial plate number. The cops showed up 20 minutes later. We pulled the security footage. What we saw chilled us both. Before the woman even entered the building, 2 masked individuals had positioned themselves on either side of the station. One was holding a crowbar, another carried a small boxy device, jammer maybe. They were synced, coordinated, practiced. Then there was the final shot. Just before the feed went dead, the figure standing at the edge of the lot, tall, motionless, turned to face the camera directly. No mask, no hood. Just a pale man in a dark coat, smiling. The same man who bought that bottle of water. The license plate? Fake. Registered to a closed dealership 3 states away. The cops filed a report, but no one ever came forward. No matches, no suspects. I didn't finish out the month. I couldn't. I haven't set foot in that gas station since. But every now and then, late at night, I get a call from a blocked number. Never leaves a voicemail. Never says anything when I pick up. Just silence. And then a soft click. Last week at the grocery store, I saw a woman standing at the far end of the aisle. High boots, black jacket, red lipstick. When I blinked, she was gone. Some people think evil wears a mask. But the truth? Sometimes it wears a smile and waits just long enough for you to open the door. If these stories sent a chill down your spine, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe for more eerie tales. What would you do if you were caught in one of these unsettling situations? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear what's on your mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.